Hello, everyone, and welcome to the RealClear Politics Takeaway for Tuesday, October 19th. I'm Tom Bevan, co-founder and president of RCP.
I'm Carl Cannon, Washington bureau chief.
Carl, we lost a big one yesterday. Colin Powell died, 84 years old. He had cancer, but died from and was sort of immunocompromised, but died apparently from complications from COVID-19. A lot of tributes to him in the media. You covered him when he was in the White House as the first African-American Joint Chiefs, and then also as Secretary of State.
Yeah, Colin Powell was one of those people. He lived up to the billing, Tom. There have been these tributes, and they're appropriate. For son of Jamaican immigrants, grew up in New York, ROTC, combat, leader in Vietnam, 4-star general, served 4 American presidents. I think 2 of each party, 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats. If the Republicans wanted him to run for president before George Bush did, the Democrats they didn't know he was Republican. They thought maybe he'd run as a Democrat. He probably would have been, if we had a third party in the middle, that's probably where he would have been. When I think of him, though, Tom, and these tributes are all appropriate, but I think of 2 things, one of them personal and the other just a little vignette. He was driving his Corvette. He didn't like to be driven, as our producer John Sorensen reminded me this morning. He liked to drive himself, and he saw a guy with a prosthesis changing a tire, and he stopped and helped him change the tire. And it turned out Powell thought the guy was probably a veteran, and he was, and they bonded. And so here was this, luminary helping a guy change a flat tire on the side of the road. And I think that sums up a life of service as much as anything else. On a more lighthearted note, when I was covering the Bush White House, I was in Sharm el Sheikh, which is along the Red Sea. And there was a press conference, and Powell was conducting it. And I thought I had time to go snorkeling before the press conference started.
Of course you did.
And the guys at the hotel said, yeah, it's just a little ways down there. Well, it was about a, quarter-mile walk or more. And I went down there, and then you lose yourself in the ocean. And then I thought, well, I better hurry. So I went running back. And at some point I sort of dropped the snorkeling stuff and started running fast and changing clothes. I went into the wet hair and buttoning my shirt. And the whole International Press Corps, there was a seat for me, and I took it. I thought it was, I pretty sly, pretty surreptitious. I thought no one noticed. But General Powell was up at the lectern, and he said, gee, Carl, we're sorry we held you up. And everybody turned and looked at me. And, I thought, he's friendly. He likes reporters, but he's a military man. You're supposed to be on time. So I was properly chastened.
Carl, we've been friends for a long time. And I thought I've heard almost all of your stories, but every now and then you pull out a new one. And that one is new to me. All right, let's talk about the news of the day, because we also have, the vaccine mandates here in Chicago. The mandate was supposed to go into effect over the weekend. And we now have Lori Lightfoot saying that the chief of the police union is trying to, quote, incite an insurrection over the vaccine mandate. We had a lot of police officers who are not going to work. That's not just happening in Chicago. It's happening in other cities as well. And then we also found out, Carl, the head coach of the Washington State Cougars, my parents' alma mater, Nick Rolovich, was fired, he and 4 assistants, for not complying with the Washington State vaccine mandate. So a pretty high profile case of someone who is now unemployed because they were unwilling to comply with the mandate.
I saw those, Tom, and I had opposite reactions to them. I thought, what? This guy is a state employee. He's an educator. They're supposed to be molders of character. You played college football, so you know what I mean. A good football coach is an extraordinary thing. A bad one it can be dangerous. And I just think, I think that they should have gotten the vaccine. I don't think that if they're supposed to set an example for the community, I kind of understood that. But it did seem harsh. In terms of Mayor Lightfoot, I guess I didn't have an opposite reaction. I guess I'm taking the establishment view. I saw that and I thought I was going to write a column about it. She used that word insurrection. And I thought, the Democrats love that word. Anytime anybody disagrees with them, they're committing a insurrection, trying to overthrow democracy or whatever. But then I read what the head of the Fraternal Order of Police in Chicago said, and he kind of made it sound like they couldn't fire all the policemen because there would be anarchy in the streets. It did kind of sound like he was fomenting insurrection to me. I think I understand why Mayor Lightfoot was.
I think one of the issues too, though, is that the police, at least the deal that was initially offered to the police, right? They were going to have to pay for their own tests. If they didn't want to take it, the testing option was available, but they'd have to pay for their own tests. Meanwhile, there was a carve out for the teachers' unions. So there was this disparate treatment among the different employees, city employees that they took offense to. And again, surely there are plenty of folks on the force who just don't want to be told to take the vaccine, especially if they have had COVID and feel like they have natural immunity. So, but this is starting to hit in, cities across the country, industries across the country. We had Delta Airlines, the CEO said they're not going to call the vax mandate divisive, said they're not going to enforce it. Meanwhile, you've got another airline like United, which is enforcing it and firing, a couple hundred employees who wouldn't comply. So this is not going away, Carl. And I just wonder what it's doing to public opinion, how it's going to, first of all, how it might adversely impact the economy, but then also how it's going to potentially impact the Biden administration, which even though some of these are state mandates, obviously Joe Biden and his administration is the one who sort of put this in motion, and they're coming out with the OSHA rule mandating that all companies with more than 100 employees have to get their workers vaccinated.
Well, I think in a way the Biden administration was caught unawares by some of the pushback. I know I was. The riddle here is you're trying to do public health in the proper way while keeping the economy going. And what's happened now, though, this backlash to getting the vaccine is it's starting to hurt the economy. It's starting to be a drag on the economy, these vaccine mandates. So it's not what the administration wanted. I don't know the quick way out of it. I keep seeing the same thing from people. There's people who are just anti-vaxxers who are kind of goofy about vaccines. But then there's people who they sit there and look in the camera and say, I've had the vaccine. I just don't think the government has a right to force people to do it. And, that's a very American response. I just wish that the people in charge, starting with President Trump, Donald Trump when he was president, Joe Biden before he was president, and now as president, would explain to the American people, this is not some experimental vaccine rushed onto the market. The technology was there. The basic science was there. The applied science was applied quickly, yes, but there were extensive trials. And I just think the people in charge are not doing a very good job of educating the American people. Instead, they're trying to boss them around. And Americans don't like to be bossed around.
All right. Well, we will leave it there for this morning. I'm Tom Bevan, co-founder and president of RealClear Politics.
And I'm Carl Cannon, uncommonly preachy this morning. I'm the Washington bureau chief, and this has been the RealClear Politics Takeaway for Tuesday, October 19th, 2021.